The story of the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden is one of the most well-known and powerful narratives in the Bible, found in the book of Genesis. This story explains the origin of sin and why humanity lives in a world marked by suffering, temptation, and the need for salvation. For Catholics, the account of Adam and Eve and the forbidden fruit is not simply an ancient tale. It is a profound theological explanation of humanity's relationship with God and the consequences of disobedience. According to Genesis, God created the world in perfect harmony. After forming the heavens, the earth, and all living creatures, God created the first human beings, Adam and Eve. They were placed in the Garden of Eden, a place of beauty, abundance, and peace. In this garden, Adam and Eve lived in perfect communion with God. There was no suffering, no death, and no separation between humanity and its Creator. God gave them dominion over the garden and allowed them to eat freely from nearly every tree. However, there was one command. In the middle of the garden stood the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God told them that they could eat from any tree except this one. The command was simple, but it carried deep meaning. It represented trust and obedience. God gave humans free will, the ability to choose love and faithfulness rather than forcing obedience. The turning point came when the serpent appeared. In Catholic teaching, the serpent represents Satan, the fallen angel who rebelled against God. The serpent approached Eve and questioned God's command. He planted doubt by asking whether God had really forbidden them to eat from the tree. Then he made a bold claim. Eating the fruit would not bring death, but instead would make them like God, knowing good and evil. Temptation often begins with doubt and deception. Eve looked at the fruit and saw that it was good, pleasing to the eye, and desirable for gaining wisdom. She took the fruit and ate it. Then she gave some to Adam, who also ate it. This moment is known as the fall of man. Immediately, everything changed. The first effect was the loss of innocence. Adam and Eve suddenly realized they were naked and felt shame. For their disobedience, they lived in complete purity and trust. Now fear and guilt entered their hearts. When God came to the garden, instead of joyfully meeting him, they hid. Their actions brought consequences not only for themselves but for all humanity. God confronted them and explained the results of their choice. Pain, struggle, and death would now be part of human existence. The harmony between humans, nature, and God was broken. Adam would struggle to work the land. Eve would experience pain in childbirth, and the serpent was cursed. Finally, Adam and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden. In Catholic theology, this event is called original sin. It does not mean that all humans are personally guilty of Adam and Eve's act, but rather that humanity inherited a fallen condition. The relationship with God that once existed in perfect harmony was damaged. Human nature became wounded, inclined it toward sin and selfishness. However, the story of the forbidden fruit is not only about failure and punishment. Even in this moment of judgment, God revealed the beginning of hope. In Genesis, God spoke of a future descendant of the woman who would defeat the serpent. Catholics understand this as the first prophecy of Jesus Christ, who would come to redeem humanity from sin. Jesus is often called the new Adam. While Adam brought sin into the world through disobedience, Christ brought salvation through perfect obedience. Through his life, death, and resurrection, Jesus restored the possibility of friendship with God. The Church teaches that this restoration is given to believers through grace, especially through the sacrament of baptism, which removes original sin. The forbidden fruit, therefore, represents more than a single act of disobedience. It symbolizes the moment when humanity chose independence from God rather than trust in him. Yet it also reveals the depth of God's mercy. Even when humanity turned away, God did not abandon his creation. Instead, he began a plan of redemption that would unfold throughout the entire Bible. For Catholics, the lesson of the forbidden fruit remains relevant today. Every person faces choices between trust in God and the temptation to follow their own desires apart from him. The story reminds believers that sin has real consequences, but it also points to the hope found in God's forgiveness and grace. In the end, the forbidden fruit changed humanity forever. It introduced sin into the world. but it also set the stage for the greatest story of salvation, the coming of Jesus Christ, who restores what was lost in Eden. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next video.